The signal came on a Tuesday. At first, the scientists at the SETI facility in New Mexico thought it was a glitch. The pattern was too regular, too precise to be natural. Dr. Alan Wright was eating his lunch when his assistant ran into the room, face flushed with excitement. "You need to see this," she said, pushing a tablet in front of him. Alan dropped his sandwich and stared at the screen. The sequence of pulses formed a clear mathematical pattern. Prime numbers, then the value of pi, then the Fibonacci sequence. There was no mistaking it. This was not random cosmic noise. "Get the UN on the phone," he said quietly, "and call Captain Miller." Within 24 hours, the United Nations Security Council held an emergency meeting. The room buzzed with tension as Dr. Wright explained what they had found. "This signal originates from a star system about 12 light-years away," he said, pointing to the star map. "It's clearly artificial and clearly meant for us to find. They're talking to us." Secretary General Frank Martinez leaned forward. "And what are they saying, Doctor?" "Hello," replied Ellen with a small smile. "They're saying hello." Captain Samantha Miller stood in the corner, arms crossed. The decorated Navy officer had been pulled from her command of a nuclear submarine to head up the newly formed First Contact Security Division. She didn't like unknowns, and aliens were the biggest unknown of all. "How do we respond?" she asked. "We already have," Alan replied. "We sent back the same mathematical sequences plus some new ones. Simple communication." 3 months passed. Earth held its breath. Scientists worked around the clock to decode more complex messages that began arriving weekly. Politicians argued about who would represent humanity. Religious leaders debated what this meant for their beliefs. Then came the message everyone was waiting for. "They're coming," Alan announced to the Security Council. "The aliens call themselves the Galactic Council. They represent 27 different species from across our sector of the galaxy. And they'll be here in 6 months." The day of arrival brought 3 billion people to their screens. The alien ship descended through Earth's atmosphere with impossible grace, a gleaming silver oval that settled gently onto the landing pad built specially in Geneva. Captain Miller led the security team, though they had been ordered to carry only ceremonial weapons. "Remember," she told her people, "we represent all of humanity today." A doorway appeared in the side of the ship, seeming to melt away rather than open. From it emerged Ambassador Zorteth of the Arcturians, the Council's chosen representative for First Contact. The ambassador stood 7 feet tall, with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms. Despite the alien appearance, there was something almost elegant about the way Zorteth moved. "People of Earth," the ambassador spoke in perfect English, the words slightly delayed from the movement of the unusual mouth, indicating some kind of translation technology. "The Galactic Council welcomes you to the community of stars." Secretary General Martinez stepped forward and bowed slightly. "We are honored by your presence, Ambassador. Earth welcomes you in peace and friendship." The formal greetings continued, broadcast to every corner of the planet. Humanity celebrated. First Contact had been peaceful. Earth was not alone. But later that night, aboard the Council ship, Ambassador Zorteth met with the other Council representatives. "What do you think of them?" asked Vex Nor, a reptilian being from a world humans would call Epsilon Eridani. "Primitive," replied Zorteth, "but they have potential. Their world is rich in resources we need." "Will they resist classification as a protectorate?" another asked. Zorteth made a gesture that might have been a smile on a human face, but looked unsettling on the Arcturian. "They don't even know what that means yet. By the time they understand, it will be too late to object." The Council representatives laughed among themselves while on the planet below. Humanity celebrated what they thought was the dawn of a new age of galactic friendship. They had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks after First Contact, the Galactic Council announced their formal assessment of Earth would begin. They called it standard procedure for all newly discovered worlds. Dr. Olivia Parker felt uneasy as she watched the council representatives set up their equipment in the UN headquarters. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had been assigned to work with the aliens and learn about their biology. But something felt wrong. These scanning devices, she asked Ambassador Zorteth, pointing to the silver orbs being placed around the room. What exactly do they measure? Thought patterns, brain activity, decision-making processes, the ambassador replied casually. All standard metrics for species assessment. Olivia frowned. But you must know our species isn't telepathic. We communicate verbally and through body language. Zorteth made that strange, not quite smile again. Yes, most primitive species haven't developed such abilities yet. The word primitive stung, but Olivia said nothing. Across town, Lieutenant Jack Hayes led a security sweep of the guest quarters provided to the council delegates. His team moved carefully through the empty rooms while the aliens attended meetings. "Sir, you should see this," one of his men called out. Jack walked over and looked at the small device hidden behind a painting. It was no bigger than a coin but glowed faintly blue. "There's more," the officer said. "We found 37 so far. They're everywhere." Jack took a photo with his secure phone and sent it to Captain Miller with a message. "They're watching us." At the United Nations, Secretary General Martinez sat across from the Council Assessment Committee. 5 different alien species stared back at him with expressions he couldn't read. "Let me understand," Martinez said slowly. "You're saying Earth fails to meet the criteria for full membership in the Galactic Council." "Your species shows potential," replied Vex Nor, the reptilian alien. "But you lack several key developments. No faster-than-light travel. No unified world government. No telepathic abilities. No quantum computation. But we have art, music, literature," Martinez argued. "We've split the atom, mapped our genome, sent probes beyond our solar system." The council members looked at each other. One of them made a trilling sound that might have been laughter. "Those are expected developments for any sentient species," Zorteth said. "Nothing exceptional." Martinez felt his face grow hot. "So what happens now?" "Earth will be classified as a protectorate," Zorteth explained. "We will provide protection from cosmic threats. We will share some technology. In exchange, we require access to certain resources your planet possesses in abundance." "What resources?" "Water, certain rare minerals, biological specimens, nothing you will miss." That evening, Captain Miller met with Dr. Wright, Dr. Parker, and Lieutenant Hayes in a secure room deep beneath the Pentagon. They had swept it 3 times for surveillance devices. "They've bugged every room they've been in," Jack reported. "And they're placing devices throughout major cities, too." "Their assessment is rigged," Olivia added. "They measure sentience through telepathic ability. By their standards, dolphins would rank higher than humans because dolphins have limited telepathic communication." Alan Wright paced the room. "They classified us as a protectorate. I looked into their database. Every protectorate world they've ever taken has been stripped of resources within 50 years. "So that's it?" Captain Miller asked. "We just let them take over." "No," said Alan firmly. "They think we're primitive because we can't read minds. But that means they can't read ours either." "What are you suggesting?" Miller asked. "They don't respect us," Alan replied. "They don't fear us. They think we'll simply accept their decision." He smiled grimly. "I think it's time we show the Galactic Council exactly what humans do when backed into a corner." The abandoned auto factory in Detroit hadn't produced cars in 20 years. Now, deep beneath its rusting shell, 40 of Earth's brightest minds gathered in secret. Colonel Laura Thompson stood at the front of the room. The career military officer had fought in 3 wars and never lost. She wasn't about to lose her planet. "We need to be clear," she said, looking at the faces around her. "If the Council discovers what we're doing, they could declare us hostile and take immediate control of Earth." Dr. Peter Collins raised his hand. The quantum physicist looked like he hadn't slept in days. "I've been studying the technology they've shown us," he said. Their systems are more advanced than ours, but they all have the same weakness. He walked to a whiteboard and drew a quick diagram. All council technology has telepathic interfaces. It's built for species that can send and receive thoughts. They don't even use screens or buttons the way we do. How does that help us? Someone asked. It means their security is mainly telepathic too, Peter explained. They detect threats by sensing hostile thoughts, but they can't read our minds at all. Captain Miller smiled for the first time in weeks. So we're invisible to them. At least mentally. As long as we stay calm around them. Yes, Peter confirmed. Laura nodded. Then we need to build a resistance. People who can work right under their noses without giving themselves away. And so the Terran Sovereignty Initiative was born. TSI operated in cells across the globe. Engineers studied alien tech. Scientists developed new weapons. Military personnel trained in secret. Meanwhile, the Council began establishing outposts around Earth. They claimed they were scientific research stations. No one believed them anymore. Vex Nor, the reptilian council member, walked through a busy street in New York. Humans moved past, some staring, others trying not to look. He noticed increased military presence, but dismissed it as simple caution. These primitives were nervous, that's all. What he couldn't see were the TSI operatives taking photos of his environmental suit, analyzing its weaknesses. In a lab beneath London, Dr. Parker made a breakthrough. She had captured communications between council members. They're planning mining operations, she told the TSI leadership over a secure channel. Australia first, then South America. They're after something called Element 310. It's not on our periodic table. When do they start? Asked Laura. 3 months. And they're not planning to ask permission. Alan Wright had been working on the Council's language and code systems. I've decoded more of their communications, he reported. They refer to Earth as Resource World 7729. There are thousands of others. Other worlds like us? Captain Miller asked. Yes, and from what I can tell, not all of them accepted protectorate status willingly. The news spread through TSI. They weren't just fighting for Earth anymore. They were fighting for all species the Council had subjugated. 2 months later, the first TSI test was ready. Peter Collins had built a device that could disrupt Council technology without affecting human systems. It creates a field that blocks their telepathic interfaces, he explained as the team gathered around the small device. Their tech should simply stop working within range. And they won't be able to trace it? Laura asked. No, it uses principles they don't even consider technology. To them, it would be like trying to trace magic. Jack Hayes picked up the device. I'll plant it near their Sydney outpost tomorrow. If it works. If it works, Miller finished, we'll have our first weapon against them. As the meeting broke up, Laura pulled Alan aside. I need you to prepare a message, she said quietly. Something that will get the Council's attention when the time comes. Something that says, we are not your resource world. Alan nodded. I know exactly what to say. And I'll make sure they understand every word of it. Across the room, Peter Collins watched the Earth team work together. For the first time since the Council arrived, he felt something new. He felt hope. Dr. Peter Collins stared at the data on his screen and blinked twice to make sure he wasn't seeing things. The test results were clear. He grabbed his secure phone and called Captain Miller. I found something, he said when she answered. You need to see this now. 2 hours later, the core TSI team gathered in Peter's lab. The quantum physicist pointed to a series of brain scans on the wall. These are Council species, he explained, showing images of alien brain patterns. Their thoughts create specific energy signatures that their technology can detect and interpret. He switched to another set of images. And these are human brains. Our thought patterns don't register on their systems at all. It's like we're invisible to them. We knew they couldn't read our minds, Laura said. How is this different? It's not just that they can't read our thoughts. Peter replied excitedly. Their entire security system is based on detecting brain patterns. Their doors, their computers, their weapons, all designed to respond to telepathic species. Alan Wright understood first. So their security systems can't detect us as threats because they literally can't see our thoughts. Exactly, Peter nodded. To their systems, we barely register as sentient. Captain Miller leaned forward. You're saying we could walk right past their security? With proper preparation, yes. Someone could enter their facilities almost undetected. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. I'll go, said a voice from the back. They turned to see Daniel Harris, a former spy who had joined TSI early on. Quiet and observant, he rarely spoke at meetings. I've been studying their movements, their habits, Daniel continued. I can pass as maintenance staff at their lunar base. Laura looked skeptical. The moon, that's their most secure outpost. Which makes it the best target, Daniel argued. They'll never expect us there. After much debate, the plan was approved. 3 weeks later, Daniel boarded a civilian transport to the moon, disguised as an environmental systems technician. The lunar base had been established as a joint Earth Council science facility, with humans handling basic maintenance. His heart pounded as he approached the restricted section, but he kept his face calm. A council guard waved a scanner over him. Daniel had been coached to think about mundane tasks, fixing air filters, checking pressure seals, nothing threatening. The scanner showed no alerts. The guard waved him through. Inside, Daniel moved carefully through the alien facility. Using the techniques Peter had taught him, he remained mentally quiet while placing tiny recording devices in key locations. In the central data hub, he connected a special drive to their system. It didn't try to hack their network that would trigger alarms. Instead, it simply recorded the energy patterns of data flowing through their systems. Peter would decode it later. What Daniel found next was unexpected. In a secure room, he discovered hundreds of files on different species. Earth wasn't the first world the Council had encountered. They had been cataloging and classifying planets for thousands of years. One file caught his attention, a report on human creativity and adaptation. It was flagged as anomalous and potentially concerning. The report noted that humans developed new technology in unpredictable ways, often skipping what the Council considered logical development steps. It called human adaptability aggressive and recommended careful monitoring. Daniel copied everything he could and slipped out the way he came in. Back on Earth, the TSI team reviewed his findings with growing excitement. They're afraid of us, Samantha Miller realized. Not our weapons or technology, but our minds, our creativity. And they don't even know we're fighting back yet, Laura added. Helen studied the Council's assessment with a smile. They think we're primitive because we're different. That's their first mistake. And their biggest, Peter agreed. Because while they're watching for threats they understand, we're building ones they can't imagine. Laura finished. The plan to establish a hidden base on Mars was approved that night. Operation Independence had begun. The mining ships arrived in Australia without warning. Massive Council vessels descended from the clouds and landed in the outback. They began digging immediately. No permission asked. No treaty signed. Secretary General Martinez filed formal protests. The Council ignored them. This is the resource agreement, Ambassador Zorteth explained coolly during an emergency meeting. As a protectorate world, Earth provides necessary materials to the Council. We never agreed to this, Martinez argued. Your agreement was not required, Zorteth replied. This is why we classify your species as primitive. You still believe you have a choice. 3 days later, Major Ryan Cooper led a small team across the desert. The 6 soldiers moved silently toward the alien mining operation under cover of darkness. Each carried a backpack containing one of Dr. Collins' devices. Remember, Ryan told his team through their secure comms, stay calm. Think about the sand, the stars, anything but what we're doing. Their sensors can't read our thoughts, but they can still see us. They reached the perimeter as a dust storm kicked up. Perfect cover. The soldiers slipped past the outer guards, who were more concerned with the stinging sand than watching for intruders. Inside the compound, they split up. Each person had a specific target based on Daniel Harris intelligence from the moonbase. Ryan headed for the main ship. The alien vessel towered above him, gleaming even in the dim light. Ryan found an access panel near the ground and attached his device. It looked like nothing more than a small metal disc, but it contained the EMP technology developed by TSI. Packages delivered, came the reports, one by one. Ryan was the last to place his device. As he was about to confirm, a council guard appeared around the corner. Ryan froze. The alien looked directly at him, then began to approach. Ryan thought about the sand, the wind, how uncomfortable his boots felt. Anything but the weapon he carried or his mission. The guard moved closer, scanning him with a handheld device. It beeped softly. The alien seemed confused, looking from Ryan to the scanner and back again. Finally, it made a dismissive gesture and walked away. Ryan let out a breath he didn't know he was holding and confirmed his placement. Then the team retreated the way they had come. Back at the TSI base, Dr. Parker watched the live feed from their satellites. "Devices are in position," she reported. "Ready on your command." Colonel Thompson nodded. "Do it." Olivia pressed the activation code. Thousands of miles away, the 6 devices simultaneously released pulses of electromagnetic energy specifically calibrated to Council technology. The effect was immediate. The mining ships went dark. Their anti-gravity systems failed, causing several to crash heavily to the ground. Communication systems died. Weapons systems shut down. But human technology, the cameras recording everything, the satellites watching from above, worked perfectly. "Launch Phase 2, Laura ordered. Ryan's team moved in again, this time with a larger force behind them. They boarded the disabled command ship and took the Council crew prisoner before they could call for help. By morning, Earth had its first alien vessel. The Council was in chaos. Mechanical failure, Vexnor insisted during the emergency council meeting. These things happen in primitive environments. Ambassador Zorteth wasn't convinced. All ships failing at once. That's not coincidence. The humans don't have technology that could do this, another council member argued. Then explain how they captured our mining vessel, Zorteth countered. While the council argued, Dr. Parker and her team began taking apart the captured ship. What they found exceeded their wildest hopes. "This is it," she told the TSI leadership, holding up a small crystal device. "Their FTL drive. Faster than light travel." Peter Collins carefully took the crystal, studying it with wonder. "If we can reverse engineer this, we can build our own ships," Laura finished. "Ships that can leave the solar system." Captain Miller looked at the alien technology spread across the lab tables. "How long?" 3 months, Peter estimated. Maybe less. For the first time since the council arrived, they allowed themselves to celebrate. The path to freedom was clear at last. Unknown to them, Ambassador Zorteth was reviewing sensor logs from the mining ships. Something wasn't right. The humans were hiding something, and the ambassador intended to find out what. Ambassador Zorteth waited alone in the small park. The meeting was a huge risk, but after weeks of investigating the mining ship incident, the Arcturian had made a decision. Secretary General Martinez arrived 10 minutes late, flanked by 2 security officers who kept their distance when Zorteth gestured. "This is unusual," Martinez said cautiously. "Secret meetings aren't standard council protocol." "What I have to say isn't standard council business," Zorteth replied. The ambassador looked around nervously. "I believe your people deserve to know the truth." Martinez tensed. "What truth?" "You are not the first. Before Earth, the Council found 3 other species with similar development levels. The Deltans, the Proxians, and the Tausetians. All were classified as protectorates. What happened to them?" They were stripped of resources until their planets could no longer support their civilizations. Their populations declined by more than half. Those who survived now served the Council as labor forces. Martinez struggled to hide his shock. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because your people fight differently," Zorteth said. "The attack on our mining operation, yes, I know it was deliberate, shows an ingenuity the other species lacked." Zorteth handed Martinez a small data crystal. "Coordinates to the other worlds. Defense protocols. Communication frequencies. Things you will need." "You're committing treason against your own council," Martinez said. "I'm choosing the right side of history," the ambassador replied. "The council has ruled through technological superiority for too long. They'd grown arrogant, cruel." Martinez took the crystal. "Why should I trust you?" "You shouldn't," Zorteth admitted. "But verify what I've told you. Your resistance already has our technology. Use it." Captain Miller was skeptical when Martinez brought the information to TSI. "It's obviously a trap," she argued. "Maybe," Daniel Harris said, studying the data crystal. "But the intelligence is too valuable to ignore. If these other worlds exist, then we're not alone in our fight," Laura finished. They spent days verifying Zorteth's information. The coordinates matched star systems the Council had mentioned in their databases. The defense protocols aligned with what they'd learned from the captured ship. 2 weeks later, the first human FTL ship was ready. They called it the Defiance. Built in the secret Mars facility, it combined Council technology with human innovation. "It's not pretty," Peter Collins admitted as they gathered in the hangar. The ship looked cobbled together, with visible welds and mismatched parts. "But it works. We've tested the drive system 3 times. Captain Miller volunteered to command the mission. "If this is a trap, better me than all of us." "You'll need backup," Ryan said, stepping forward. "I'm going to." In the end, a crew of 7 was selected. Their mission: reach the nearest world Zorteth had identified, the Deltan homeworld, and make contact with any resistance there. The night before launch, Alan Wright found Samantha checking the ship one last time. "Nervous?" he asked. "Terrified," she admitted. "No human has ever traveled faster than light before. We could end up anywhere. Or nowhere." "You'll make it," Alan said confidently. "And you'll find allies." The launch was conducted in total secrecy. The Defiance rose silently from the Martian surface, powered by conventional engines until it cleared the solar system. "All systems ready," Ryan reported from the navigation console. "FTL drive powering up." Samantha took a deep breath and gave the order. "Engage." The stars stretched into lines around them as the ship accelerated beyond light speed. Earth vanished behind them. 3 days later, they reached Deltan space. The planet looked similar to Earth, but with more oceans. Council ships orbited like vultures. "Scan for communications," Samantha ordered. Almost immediately, they picked up a signal, weak but clear. "It's on the frequency Zorteth provided," Ryan said in surprise. The message was simple, repeating in a mathematical pattern similar to how humans had first contacted the Council. "They're calling for help," Olivia translated. They'd been calling for 100 years. Samantha made her decision. "Send the response code. Tell them help has finally arrived." For the first time in a century, hope returned to Deltan space. The Defiance returned to Mars with 6 Deltan representatives on board. They were tall, with pale blue skin and 4 arms like the Arcturians, but with large eyes adapted to their ocean world. Krell Ness, the leader of the Deltan resistance, addressed the combined TSI leadership. "For 100 years, we have fought the Council in secret," he said through a translator. "We thought we were alone. Then your ship arrived." The news from Delta was both terrible and inspiring. The Council had taken most of their world's resources, leaving the population struggling to survive. Yet they had maintained a hidden resistance for generations. After the Deltans, the Defiance made contact with the Proxians and the Tausetians. Their stories were similar. All had been fighting alone. All were ready to join forces. Colonel Thompson called an emergency meeting of all resistance leaders. "The Council still doesn't know what we're doing," she said. "They've increased security, but they believe the mining ship incident was isolated. We need to use this advantage while we have it." The combined resistance, now calling itself the Alliance of Free Worlds, began building a fleet in secret. Hidden bases were established in asteroid belts and on moons across 4 solar systems. On Earth, Dr. Wright made a crucial discovery while studying Council legal archives. "I found something," he told the TSI leadership, pointing to an ancient text. "There's a provision in Council law called the Sovereign Challenge. Any protectorate species can claim full sovereignty if they can defeat a Council armada in fair combat." "They'd never agree to that," Captain Miller argued. "They have to," Allen insisted. "It's their oldest law, dating back to the founding of the Council. If we formally invoke it, they must accept or lose legitimacy with all member species." Meanwhile, Peter Collins and engineers from all 4 worlds worked on weapons and defenses for their growing fleet. They combined Council technology with innovations the Council had never considered. "They rely too much on telepathic interfaces," Peter explained to the Alliance commanders. "We've built systems that use multiple control methods: manual, voice, even simple AI. Our ships can function even if their jammers try to disrupt us." The engineers had another advantage. For centuries, the Council had followed the same technological path, making incremental improvements to existing systems. The Alliance races, coming from different scientific traditions, approached problems from angles the Council had never explored. On a secret base hidden in Saturn's rings, Colonel Thompson trained the first multi-species fighting force. "We all have different strengths," she told the mixed group of humans, Deltans, Proxians, and Tausetians. Deltans have natural underwater abilities. Proxians can see in radiation spectrums we can't. Tausetians have incredible memory recall. Humans adapt quickly to new situations. Together," she continued, "we're stronger than any single species, including the Council races." The training was difficult. Different species had different physical needs and communication styles, but week by week, they formed into effective teams. 6 months after first contact with the Deltans, the Alliance fleet was ready. 20 ships of various sizes, crewed by all 4 species, gathered at the edge of the solar system. Samantha Miller, now Admiral of the Alliance fleet, addressed the crews from the bridge of the flagship Freedom. "Today we take our first step toward true independence," she said, her voice transmitted to all ships. "The Council believes they are our superiors. They see us as resources to be used, not equals to be respected." She paused, looking at the diverse faces of her crew: human, Deltan, Proxian, and Tausetian, all working side by side. "We will show them how wrong they are." On Earth, Secretary General Martinez prepared to deliver the formal challenge to the Council. In his office, Ambassador Zorteth waited. "Once you do this, there's no turning back," the ambassador warned. "The Council will respond with full force." Martinez handed over the document. "We're counting on it." The challenge was set. The date was chosen. Soon, the Council would learn exactly what they had awakened. The Galactic Council received Earth's challenge with amusement. The highest members gathered in their grand chamber on the Council homeworld to discuss this unexpected development. The humans invoked the Sovereign Challenge. One Council elder laughed. "How quaint. We are bound by our laws to accept," another pointed out. "But it will be a useful lesson for other protectorate worlds." They agreed to send their ceremonial fleet, 12 of their most advanced warships, to meet the human challenge. It was more than enough to crush any resistance from a primitive world. News of the Council's acceptance reached Earth quickly. The Alliance had 1 week to prepare for the battle that would decide their fate. Admiral Miller gathered her captains for one final briefing aboard the Freedom. "The Council is sending 12 ships," she told them. "They think it's a formality. They expect to find a few Earth vessels they can easily destroy as an example to others. She smiled grimly. They don't know about our allies. They don't know about our fleet. And most importantly, they don't know how we fight. The plan was simple but daring. The Alliance fleet would remain hidden until the Council ships arrived at the designated coordinates near Jupiter. Then they would strike from multiple directions, using tactics the Council had never encountered. The night before the battle, Laura Thompson visited the Bridge of the Freedom. Nervous, she asked Samantha. No, the Admiral replied. For the first time since they arrived, I feel like we have a real chance. We do, Laura agreed. But win or lose tomorrow, you've already done something they thought impossible. You've united 4 worlds against them. Across the fleet, similar conversations took place. Humans, Deltans, Proxians, and Tausetians prepared together, each bringing their unique perspectives and abilities to the fight ahead. The Council fleet arrived precisely on schedule, emerging from FTL in perfect formation near Jupiter. Grand Admiral Zelvanth of the Council forces looked at the empty space around his ships with disdain. Typical primitive behavior, he commented to his bridge crew. Perhaps they've reconsidered their foolish challenge. Then his sensors officer called out in alarm. Multiple ships detected. They were hiding in Jupiter's radiation belts. The Alliance fleet emerged from hiding, 20 ships strong, approaching from all directions. Impossible, Zelvanth whispered as the tactical display showed the enemy fleet. Where did they get these vessels? Before he could recover from his shock, Admiral Miller's voice came through on all frequencies. The transmission was being broadcast across the galaxy on Council channels, another provision of the ancient challenge law. This is Admiral Samantha Miller of the Alliance of Free Worlds, she announced. We formally engage in the Sovereign Challenge. May the worthy prevail. The battle began immediately. The Council ships were more advanced, but the Alliance had numbers, surprise, and innovation on their side. Alliance ships darted between the larger Council vessels, targeting specific systems that Peter Collins had identified as vulnerabilities. The Council commanders, used to fighting predictable battles against known enemies, struggled to counter the mixed tactics of the Alliance forces. When Alliance ships were damaged, they didn't retreat as expected. Instead, they switched to secondary systems and kept fighting. When telepathic jamming failed to disable the Alliance fleet, the Council commanders were left without their most reliable weapon. On the Freedom's Bridge, Admiral Miller watched the battle unfold according to plan. Target their flagship, she ordered. All available ships. 5 Alliance vessels converged on Zelvanth's command ship, firing precisely at its propulsion and weapons systems. The massive vessel tried to evade but was soon drifting powerless. One by one, the other Council ships were disabled or destroyed. 3 hours after the battle began, Admiral Zelvanth contacted the Freedom. We surrender, he said, shock evident in his voice. Throughout the galaxy, Council members and subject worlds watched in stunned silence as the unthinkable happened. A protectorate world and its allies had defeated the mighty Council fleet. On the Freedom, humans embraced their alien allies in celebration. What they had done was more than win a battle. They had changed the galaxy forever. The day the Galactic Council regretted their own decisions had finally arrived.